I'm explaining a film from 2016 titled The Shallows. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. The scene starts with Nancy. A shark was spotted swimming towards Nancy while she was swimming with the high waves. Nancy's surfboard was attacked by the shark, forcing her to sink and smack her head on the coral. The shark attacked her leg and dragged her into the ocean just as she was going to get back on her surfboard. Nancy swam away from her surfboard towards the whale corpse, despite the agony in her legs from the shark attack. Two other surfers could be seen leaving from a distance. Nancy yelled for aid from them, but they couldn't hear her since they were too far away. The shark approached Nancy and bit the whale's carcass, causing it to sway. Nancy treated the wound by sewing it up using her earring. Nancy was stranded on the little rock day and night since it was hard for her to swim to shore. In addition to her injuries, she was being monitored by the shark. Nancy, who was freezing, attempted to warm herself by ripping off her bikini, which was connected to her wound. She awoke hungry the next morning, and from a distance, she noticed her surfboard drifting. Nancy was ready to take her surfboard into the sea when the shark came. Fortunately, she was able to climb back up the rock. Nancy noticed someone asleep on the beach and called out to him. It turned out that it was a drunk man. Instead of helping, the man took things in Nancy's bag. When he was about to leave, the man saw Nancy's surfboard floating. Apparently the man was going to take that too by swimming towards the surfboard, which was quite far from the beach. Nancy had attempted to warn him about sharks and to stay out of the water, but the inebriated guy had ignored her. When he arrived at the shore, the man only had his body and head left, having been devoured from the waist down by the shark. Nancy was awakened by the sound of seagulls nearby the next morning when the two men who had been surfing the day before returned. When she spotted the two guys preparing to enter the water, she raced to tell them that there was a shark nearby. Sadly, one of them was devoured by the shark. Meanwhile, another man tried to swim towards Nancy. Unfortunately, the man also had to become the shark's meal by dragging him into the water. Now we try to flashback to why Nancy was stranded on this beach alone. So at the beginning of the film there is a boy who sees a helmet floating on the beach, which turns out there is a camera on it. The owner of the helmet was attacked by a vicious shark, and the boy immediately ran away in fear. There you can also see a broken surfboard buried in the sand. In a flashback we see how Nancy ended up here. She went to this beach in Mexico because her mother has passed away and used to go up here, and Nancy wanted to see how it looks. Nancy is accompanied by a local resident, Carlos. Nancy lives in Texas and is actually not alone. Her friend Anna is still drunk and is staying at the hotel. Anna says that she will follow her soon. The long and arduous trek to the beach was rewarded with a breathtaking view. The waves on this beach are also good for surfing, and there were two surfers there. Nancy changed her clothing and swam to the beach after Carlos departed, seeking for the appropriate waves to surf later. The two men who were surfing greeted her, but because Nancy couldn't speak Spanish, she just waved. While the two local residents also didn't speak English, the two men told Nancy that there was a rock that at low tide would look like a small island. The two men also warned her that there were also fire corals that could sting like jellyfish. Nancy very skillfully started surfing to conquer the big waves. She took a short break to eat and drink, then she video called her sister, whose father was also there, to tell them how beautiful the beach was. Meanwhile, her father advised her to return home and finish her medical studies, but Nancy did not appear to be interested in medicine. Nancy then kept surfing, which corresponded with Anna's conversation, who advised Nancy not to wait for her since she wouldn't catch up with her. The two locals then returned home first, but Nancy still wanted to surf while admiring the beauty of this secret beach. When Nancy resumed surfing, something leaped over her, and it turned out to be a bunch of dolphins swimming after her. Back to the present day, Nancy is still in the water. The water is rising while the seagulls continue to approach her. Nancy saw the helmet of one of the men. She intended to take it. Nancy managed to take the helmet, but suddenly the shark appeared from behind and attacked her. By reflex, Nancy immediately dodged and slipped so that her injured leg hit the rock below. Luckily, Nancy managed to climb back onto the reef. She then opened the contents of the camera recording. Nancy saw that the shark appeared to have a hook stuck in its mouth. Nancy looked around, then there was a beacon buoy about 30 meters away from her. She also found a broken shark tooth on the helmet. Nancy then recorded herself asking for help in the hope that she would survive. Meanwhile, the rock she was standing on was now starting to be submerged in water. The shark continued to circle around her. Then Nancy saw the jellyfish starting to appear. For a moment she thought if she could use the jellyfish's sting to fight the shark. Nancy then swam towards the beacon buoy. Suddenly the iron she was standing on the beacon broke so that Nancy fell right onto the shark beneath her. With all her strength she stabbed the shark with the piece of iron. For a moment she managed to ward off the shark and Nancy managed to climb onto the beacon buoy. Nancy noticed a fishing boat from a distance and opened a box carrying a flare gun. Sadly, the bullets spilled into the sea, but one bullet remained and was instantly discharged into the sky so the fisherman could see it and assist her. Nancy's attempts failed until the fishing boat moved away from her, at which point the shark returned and managed to remove the chain that was holding the beacon buoy. Nancy then fired a flare at the shark, causing it to catch fire, but the shark was quick to dive into the water. Suddenly the shark attacked her, causing the beacon float to tilt and fall into the water.
Oh shit!
Luckily, Nancy was able to hide behind the iron so that it could protect her from the shark attack. Nancy then tried to lure the shark into the water while she pulled out the beacon's buoy chain. Finally, the hook stuck in the shark's mouth caught on the iron so it could hold it. Nancy then swam into the water while the shark followed her. Very quickly while the iron embedded in the seabed was ready to tear open the shark's mouth, which was what Nancy had planned beforehand. Finally, the shark became entangled in the iron. The picture turns to the youngster, who leads his father to where he found the helmet with the camera. Carlos, it turns out, is the boy's father. At the same time, Carlos noticed Nancy being dragged to the beach by the waves, gravely hurt and unconscious. She regained consciousness moments later. Nancy appears to be in Texas at the end of the film. Now Nancy was reunited with her sister and father. That's all the recap. Thanks for watching. Your support would be appreciated. I hope to see you next time.